Внимание! Сессия начинается. Просьба выключить мобильные телефоны.
Attention, please. The session is beginning. Please do switch off your mobile phones. Attention, please. The session is beginning. Please switch off your cell phones. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. Today, our session is dedicated to the infrastructure and quality in EEU, new challenges in the conditions of pandemic. Well, this session was planned presentation after presentation. First, we'll give the floor to the Ministry of Industry and Trade. After that, we'll give the floor to the national institutes in the field of standardization of the institutes of our republics, and they'll talk on the role of national institutes in the quality standards in the republics and the opinion on integration of positive experience and their competence at the upper level at Eurasia Economic Union site. After that, we'll listen to the suggestions of the industry, of business. They will provide their vision, since they are interested stakeholders in the field of quality, providing quality. We've structured this session considering the fact that the quality infrastructure is a kind of a set of institutions, systems, and norms and provisions existing in our countries. The system warrants, or the set warrants, that the goods at our markets are compliant to the safety requirements, but at the same time are in demand and are competitive. I believe this approach in the conditions of sustainable business development or factors for that kind of development shall promote the atmosphere of trust and shall be of interest for all the stakeholders. That's why we've structured our session this way, so that we give the floor to both the regulators, national bodies competent in the field, representatives of business, and we are very grateful for the feedback we received or we shall receive from the speaker. So we'll begin with the presentation of Andrei Lotsmanov. He is the Chief Deputy of the Head of the Committee on Technical Regulation, Standardization, and Compliance Assessment of the Russian Union of Entrepreneurs and Industrialists. May I have my presentation, please? Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'm a bit shy to speak before the authorities representative, but tomorrow I have to be at a different meeting. That's why I asked for the floor in advance of the others. Well, the issues of cooperation in EEU and the involvement of the government standardization systems. This was discussed yesterday at the meeting of the Council of Standardization of the Standard and the Public Council of Standard. We've discussed a number of issues, including the technical regulations in the field of construction, and unanimously we came to a conclusion that definitely we should stop trying to introduce the compulsory building norms, both in EEU and in Russia. And we agreed on the necessity of development of technical regulations of buildings safety. Hence, counterfeit construction materials shall disappear from the market. They're dangerous. We have like around 5 million tons of counterfeit cement just in Russia, and it's used for the construction of bridges, buildings, etc. On the other hand, we should protect the interests of the fair producers of EEU, and we should protect them against the counterfeit products. No uniform regulations let the counterfeit penetrate into the market. So if we do develop these regulations, we'll be able to check the compliance to the regulations and the compliance of quality. Our committee exists for 16 years already, and since the customs union was formed right away, we've formed a union with our colleagues from Kazakhstan and Belarus. And later, Armenia and Kyrgyzstan joined the customs union. Now we have good connections with them as well. And now we have the business council, including all the ministers of EEU countries and the heads of the unions of entrepreneurs and industrialists of these 5 countries. This enables us to come to consensus opinions, bring our opinion to the authorities, and impact the regulations being developed in our countries for the benefit of the countries and their businessmen. Infrastructure is a very important issue, a very important element. I would say it's the foundation of both the economic integration and of the union in general. A political union is impossible without economic integration. The quality infrastructure should resolve the following tasks: getting rid of the trade barriers and obstacles, forming united production chains, make sure the produce is safe, and protect the markets for the fair producers of EEU countries. When talking about standards, this issue was discussed in detail yesterday and today in Mr. Abramov's presentation. It was mentioned that international standards should be used directly and that the MGS should be transformed. The metal producers, due to using the international standards, yet in the year 92, managed to get to the international markets. Moreover, they've improved their business. They supply pipes to over 80 countries of the world. The pipes company of Russia invested over 10 billion euros in its upgrading. Thus, nowadays, the Russian pipe producers are the most modern ones globally, or one of the most modern ones. That's the example of successful usage of standards. Direct usage of international standards, though, may have an opposite impact. In Riga, there was the radio factory, the factory producing streetcars, etc. And now Riga switched to European standards and used it directly. Nowadays, they only produce sprats, and Russia refuses to buy them. We still have Icarus buses used somewhere. All the Eastern Bloc countries used good buses. They were as good as Mercedes. Where is Icarus factory? It's located in Hungary. That was also a direct transition to foreign or international standards. So when talking about international standards, one should be very careful and attentive. It's a good thing that Alexei Vladimirovich mentioned that using international standards should be coordinated with the relevant technical committees, hence with local industry. When talking about MGS, yes, of course, most of these standards are developed in Russia. Yes, voting on standards takes months, and it's difficult. International Council for Standardization. Let me share my experience. Now we are saying developing a standard for the drilling pipe. In our 5 countries, only Russia produces them, and there are no experts on drilling pipes. We send materials for coordination and get no response because there are no experts who could check and say yes or no. So we develop the standard for a year and a half, and then it takes another year to get it coordinated, and then we fail. So the suggestions that were mentioned yesterday, and I believe they should be mentioned at EEU heads of standardization bodies, and Alexei Vladimirovich promised us to arrange such a meeting. I think the following may be done. The standard is sent for coordination. Then in the system, the time term is mentioned by which voting has to be done. If Kyrgyzstan didn't vote, we consider that they say yes. Of course, this should be discussed with our EEU colleagues, but this will enable to speed up the process in case they have no experts. We can't fail to release a standard because these countries do need those drilling pipes and they consume them. Another simple rule. If a uniform European standard was developed, it was adopted, please do ban or cancel all the other standards of yours. That's a very stringent rule. Now we have a paradox situation. There's a technical regulation, a kind of a requirement, and this requirement is supported by 3 standards of 3 countries. Which one should be chosen? How do we provide safety? So there may be the following rule. If the interstate standard is adopted, that's it. Do cancel the national standard. Full stop. In EEU and its commission, Mr. Viktor Nazarenko will hopefully support us and the industry, the technical committees that are working in the field of interstate standardization. If we enforce such a dialogue, we'll be able to resolve the issues. If we sit at the same table and discuss the issues, we'll definitely find a consensus. And then the Interstate Council on Standardization shall become viable. We can't make separate regional organization in standards for 5 countries. If we do that, we'll lose the markets of Azerbaijan, Georgia, Moldova, Ukraine, and other former CIS countries. We'll give away the markets of 7 countries to Turkey and China. Hence, we should do things reasonably. We should look for new forms of work, but we can't lose what's already available here. I'll cut down my presentation. I'll make it more brief and concise. Compliance assessment is very important. We have technical regulations, 41, but there's no surveillance of the market. The testing protocols or minutes are written manually. 100 certificates a day are issued. That's formal. It's like forbidding. It's like not checking the compliance to the traffic rules. If you don't penalize for violation of the traffic rules, they're never observed. So this is important for protection of the industry of our 5 countries. Since if 1 million tons of waste of palm tree oil is imported into the country and is sold disguised as butter, our local industry cannot compete with such counterfeit goods and can't survive. If nowadays in Russia they sell millions of tons of second-hand pipes from the old pipelines, then at the pipe producing factories there are no jobs, they're not paying taxes, and that's destroying the economy of our union of Eurasian countries. I'll cut down my presentation once again. Here is a simple example of how French wine makers act against counterfeit wine. One of the owners of Bordeaux wine started to produce fake. He earned 800,000 euros doing that. But the Union of Wine Producers of France caught him at doing that. And he was penalized. He was put in prison, actual prison, for 2 years and paid a fee of 8 million euros. I believe when he is out of prison, he will not have the right to continue his business and to label his wine with Bordeaux trademark. I'm happy to see colleagues in uniforms. These are people who protect our industry, our health. So I'd like to thank them a lot for that. Thanks a lot for your attention. All the best. Thank you, Andrei Nikolaevich, Mr. Lotsmanov, for a very informative presentation based on practical results of applying the tools of quality infrastructure. Colleagues, it should be mentioned that the practical usage of these tools is only possible if we have a perfect legal and regulations platform for that. When regarding the issue of legislation and regulations, I should mention that one of the things that promotes the development of technical regulations is a balance between getting rid of excessive requirements and product safety. These 2 things should be in harmony. This will enable us, on one hand, to protect local producers, and on the other hand, to integrate the goods and to promote their goods. Not an easy thing to do, and this business is close to our chief regulator, the Ministry of Industry and Trade. So we're happy to give the floor to the Director of the Department of Government Policy in the field of technical regulations, standardization, and providing equal measurements, Mr. Vyacheslav Burmistrov. Mr. Burmistrov, the floor is yours. Thank you. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Yuri Valerievich has already explained what my presentation shall be about, and thank you for a very kind introduction. It's truly so. Technical regulations nowadays are a comprehensive system, and it's very flexible and variable, and there should be an opportunity for flexible, fine tuning, and the interest should be considered of different bodies, structures, and there should be coordination on the level of EEU. It means 5 times more stakeholders. Hence, we should strive for continuous improvement of technical regulations, considering the changing situation and taking into attention the best practices. Let me explain the notion of technical regulations or the infrastructure. UNIDO believes that quality infrastructure is a system including all the chief aspects of development, including strategy, institutional basis, the list of the providers of services, and it should all be based on the international standards and the compliance assessment. Well, to provide products quality and safety, to support the local producers at the internal market, and to promote the export of their goods. That's our goal. We also do a lot in the field of digitalization of our work. That's really very important. The quality infrastructure includes several subsystems. That's the compliance assessment, the standardization of accreditation, the uniformity of measurements, and control. Now I'll explain each of these things in detail.
And I would like to explain how this complicated mechanism is developing now. Each of the structures, each of the approaches should become the basis of 2 main trends, transparent processes that we have mentioned today already. And our colleagues during the previous session described a lot digital transformation and digitalization of the processes. And second is the international direction that was mentioned by Mr. Mujico, and the Sustainable Development Program until 2030, which is based on 3 priorities: economic growth, social policy, and the ecology, environmental policy. These are the main directions which are the priorities for us today, the main directions of activity today. And today we need to follow and observe the strategies aimed to support the Sustainable Development Goals. Conformity assessment. From this point of view, we have to evaluate the documents here, and we have to analyze reporting data, make the documents as open and transparent as possible, and protect and dedicate a lot of attention to protection from counterfeit. We have to work with the legally proven information, and this kind of information is already included in the registers. So the project on the switching over to electronic document flow for transport facilities is a very good project, and we really expect that our colleagues from Eurasian Union will support spreading of this policy to all other documents as well. And it'll be a fully functional document on the conformity assessment, canceling the necessity of reissuing the certificates, which should become a measure for business companies' support. We are preparing the solution of the Council of the Eurasian Union regarding this topic. And this project, the project draft, involves the use of electronic documents, and we need the support of our colleagues from Eurasian Union. We could see that colleagues from Belarus and Kazakhstan already joined the project, so we request everyone to support our activity. And the general process of digital transformation here, we have to start moving towards remote analysis using the video monitoring, video fixing systems, but only in those cases where it's possible. Here, the COVID limitations helped us actually to generate the approach, a good, efficient approach to the remote analysis. And we have seen how the colleagues from Electrotechnical Committee approached this challenge, and we have received all the recommendations on bringing the analysis in compliance with these new requirements, and these procedures on evaluation of conformity. We have received a lot of positive feedbacks related to the new approach. And from this feedback, we understood that this approach is the correct one, it's efficient and reasonable, and it is safe. Next element of subsystem on standardization. According to the National Standardization Program, we are developing such documents as related to development of digital solutions, Internet of Things, control of large data, and product lifecycle control. National quality standard systems sometimes are unique, such as, for example, cyber security. And considering realization of all this program by the year 2025, Russian Federation should become one of the top 3 countries which standards comply with international standards which can be read by the machines, and to digitalize the process of standard development, we need to use the international systems. And as you know, we have already realized this project. We are creating the new laws and changing the existing laws to introduce this tool. This should become again one of the components of the system, of large system, a unified digital system for technical regulation within the Eurasian Union. And these kind of initiatives are submitted to Eurasian Union. Next component is ensuring the unity of measurements. It was mentioned many times already. The main goal here is to ensure the demands of getting new reliable results. It was already mentioned that guillotine gave us not only external challenge, but under this source, we have managed within this work, we have managed to adjust a lot of measurement facilities, and in just yesterday we have adopted the changes in the Law 102 during first two readings, and hence the government is getting the authorities for approval of these laws and lists. For metrology, there is a trend of digitalization as well, and you probably know that according to federal law that was adopted in December last year, electronic registering of calibration results and approval of measuring facilities will become the only method of approval, but issuing paper certificates will still remain, though it won't be obligatory any longer. Apart from regulatory procedures and digitalization procedures, we work on other important aspects related to realization of strategies up to 2025. Talking about import substitution strategy, Ministry of Industry and Trade, together with Standard, generated a list of measurement facilities which are identical to foreign measuring tools, and now we are working in close cooperation with companies to achieve this goal. And we have to work with our laboratories. That's a gap for us yet, but we are planning, we are trying to arrange this work. For the metrology, we have started initiative on generation of regulatory database within the Eurasian Union, and you can join the working group that was headed by us. Talking about state control, I know that there are a lot of colleagues who represent monitoring authorities of the raw standard, supervisory authorities. And we can see that separate authorities develop their own systems. And here we have to develop in due time the systems. We have adopted the law, which is covering the supervisory procedures, and we need to not to lose the control of all the technical regulations by raw standard, because raw standard is controlling these issues within the frames of federal law through the tools or describing a separate control tool or other control tools. We have to maintain those tools that we have now. We also need to indicate the systems which are being developed currently for dangerous, hazardous products. It's a huge block of the system, and we really hope to develop this system that would help us to unite the state supervisory authorities and establish the interaction between those authorities. But on the other hand, it will give an opportunity to monitor all the products and understand which products are not secure, not safe. So following these new approaches to technical regulation, in the future we can come up with digital transformation of the industry, and this is one of the main tasks of digitalization. And here, coming back to the sustainable development goals, in each of these aspects, in each of these processes, you can find the goals of sustainable development and the tasks, deliverables for long-term and short-term prospects. And of course, I would like to repeat once again that we need the support of the Eurasian Union colleagues. And we hope to get help in the conformity assessment to get this support from our colleagues. Thank you, colleagues, for your attention. I would like to thank Vyacheslav Alexandrovich and his colleagues from ROS Accreditation and ROS Standard, because considering the tough conditions of quarantine, they've managed to develop the solutions really quickly. And these solutions helped the enterprises to work in the pandemic times. Thank you very much for the work performed by you. Thank you, Andrei Nikolaevich. Unfortunately, some solutions have received negative feedbacks. We know this already, but still we need your support and we need the support of our colleagues from the industry. Thank you. Thank you. And we also would like to join. That was a very interesting report that helps us to find the solutions for this very unusual task. Removing the barriers and obstacles and improvement of the conditions for business companies. We, as institute, which is constantly contacting with the Ministry of Industry and Trade, particularly with the department headed by Andrei Vyacheslavovich, we know how difficult it is sometimes to solve these complex tasks. In his report, Vyacheslav Alexandrovich mentioned one of the tools of quality infrastructure and the issues related to creation of libraries that comply with the machine-readable format and the generation of unified format of the standard that can be used by the industry. And I think that was a very good message of when we would switch over to the next part of our session. This is the exchange of opinions between the standardization institutions in the sphere of quality infrastructure. And before we pass to the next speech, I would like to briefly describe what was done by the institutes within this short period from March until today, to understand what kind of efforts has been taken to solve these tasks. Within 9 years of this year, we have approved and adopted and developed the documents where international standardization institutions participated actively. Development of open cooperation agreement was done, and we have prepared the suggestions on realization of the Interstate Council for Standardization Development. We have developed the package of international standards for planning, development, and cancellation of standards. We have approved the standards for spread of documents related to standardization. All these supported other parameters, performances that I would like to announce. Starting from November until March, 790 standards were adopted. 91% are the new standards. Harmonization level was 52%. Increase of standards comprised 11%. We have received positive results for joint development. Not standards for technical regulations. Within first 6 months of the year, we have voted for, and national authorities showed a high activity in adoption of the new standards. And today, by the 1st of August of 2020, the program of international standardization covers more than 2,000 topics. 1,069 topics were offered by Russian Federation. It is well known that quality is generated long before the standard is submitted for consideration. What competences shall be developed within the frame of work of Eurasian Union? Today we will hear, and today Kirjan Amirkhanova will speak. She's the Deputy of Director General of Kazakhstan Institute for Standardization and Certification. You are welcome. The floor is yours. We cannot hear you, unfortunately.
Хорошо, коллеги, у нас небольшая техническая заминка, у нас звук звонит узнать со звуком. А пока идет подключение звука, знаете, как это вот у нас есть заготовка.
Well, while we are waiting for the sound to work, let me provide some results of the homework we've done. Let me read the greetings from the Institute of the Republic of Armenia. They wanted to make it at our meeting, but couldn't. So they've sent their address. Let me read it aloud. Dear forum participants, please accept our greetings to the organizers and participants of the forum, and congratulate everybody on the celebration of the International Standards Day. Unfortunately, right now the times are difficult for all the mankind. There's pandemic, and all the attempts of the international society and the healthcare bodies do not provide positive results yet. We are part of the global community, and so Armenia encountered same problems, and they're even more difficult due to the present-day situation in the country. The global economy development and improvement of the consumers' mentality created a new term that is quality infrastructure. Its goal is making the mentioned fields in compliance with the international criteria to improve the export at the international market. quality infrastructure is an important part of economy and one of the basis of the national, regional, and international trade. Infrastructure for quality is necessary for consumers' rights protection, environment protection, healthcare protection. It influences the development of any country. The present-day situation in the world is a new challenge for quality infrastructure. Hence, the topics discussed at the forum on importance of digital information in this field are of special importance. Thus, we congratulate you on this celebration one more day. We wish you peace and future fruitful work. First Deputy of the National Standardization Body of Armenia, Mr. Dnuni. I guess he can hear us now. Now, Kazakhstan. Let's make sure if we have the sound connection. We seem to have the visual connection, but not the sound. We don't have the sound on this side, unfortunately. Sorry. Tatiana, in that case, I have a request. Please ask organizers to call Kirjan Magaulina and to find out about the sound issues. In that case, let's continue. Well, dear colleagues, we continue along the program. Mr. Katerina Magonovna, if you can hear us, please check your sound, because we can only see you, but we don't hear you. Right now, they are going to call you to assist you with the sound. We give the floor to the next speaker. That is Mr. Alexander Barkov, First Deputy General Director of Standard Inform company. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. We hoped to give the floor to our partners from EEU countries, but due to the technical issues, we have to delay their presentation. But I'm sure and I hope that the technical issues shall be resolved and will correct the sound. They can hear us, hence let me congratulate you on the International Standards Day and on the anniversary of the Rosstandart company. We've chosen this topic, and together with Rosstandart, we announced it as part of the forum, and it caused great interest. We all understand that this topic exists, and the first half of this day confirmed this fact. In the first session, the head of Rosstandart mentioned that there are still issues of interstate standardization, and all the stakeholders should do something to improve the situation. On the other hand, at the session on international standardization, we've heard that modern challenges require consolidation of our efforts. We should understand that our site is EAES and the MGS body, the International Standards Council. What are the challenges from the point of view of the national bodies? Well, first of all, we don't have the tools for assessment. Hence, the usage of regulations in EEU country is not uniform yet. The list should be updated every year. This is not complied. The list of standards is sometimes different. Only 58% of standards are interstate, and there are over 100 industrial documents on testing methods. Countries lack the order and authorities for explanation and usage of regulations for the legal and technical purposes. We believe it's necessary to do more in the field of exchange of info between the institutions on standardization. Next issue is the absence of good coordination, and the financing is not sufficient for revising of standards. It was mentioned today already. That's what the session started from. On one hand, people are ready to work, but on the other hand, they are not working actively. I mean, the participants on the side of business. They're not involved yet in this work. May I have my presentation, please? Let's try to discuss these challenges and think of how to address them. Could you please explain me how to switch slides? Doesn't work. May I ask the technical support people to help me look through the slides? Not to waste your time, I'll continue telling you about the topic. Let's consider the legal basis of standardization in EEU. The basic documents is the agreement on coordinated policy in the field of standardization. The document is dated with the year 92, but we all know that it's the CIS countries who signed the document, but only 5 of them are members of EEU. That's the first reason. Second reason is that for a long period of time, these countries had certain important modifications. My example is on the slide, but I'll try to tell it without the slides. Perhaps our Kazakhstan colleagues shall mention it as well. Just before the forum, we've received from them an official notification explaining that they have one more next reorganization, and the Kazakhstan Standards Institute is united with the Certificates Institute. That's yet another proof of the fact that the structure keeps changing, and so does the situation. Here are my slides. No, not yet. Dear colleagues, shall I have my presentation or not? Could you tell me, please? They're resolving the issue. Okay, then. It's a pity. So I'll try to explain without any images. What other problems do exist? We've analyzed the 5 countries, and it turned out that ISO bodies are government bodies in 3 countries. That's Kazakhstan, Belarus, and Russia. And these are national institutes in 2 countries. That's Armenia and Kyrgyzstan. That's the situation. So when we discuss standardization and the quality infrastructure and the functions of the national institutes, we understand that even at the top level of international standardization, we have different statuses. I'll keep moving without the presentation. Please note that EEU agreement was signed in the year 14. Article number 52 of that agreement says the following. For technical regulations, they may be used the international, national, and regional standards. Only if they're absent, the national standards may be used, and other documents as well. We've analyzed the funds and understood, like, say, in Russia, only 23% of documents do provide the support for the technical regulations. Thus, we are aware of the field of interest of EEU. We see the expectations of EEU Economy Commission. They address us, the national institutes, and they expect that the technical regulations shall be provided with the national standards and that there should be the uniform requirements to products and their testing methods. And financing of works on standardization is necessary. To coordinate this field, a council was formed of standards bodies, and the council decided to approve the common activity of standards institutions of the countries in the fields of standards development. Hence, the next question, if only 23% is used for technical regulations, is the rest of the funding necessary? Yes, of course, because business and industry need standards, and they include the quality requirements to products. Time is money, Americans say. So nowadays, business is going to where its problems are resolved faster. There is national standards field. Well, the development and adoption of interstate standards is going down, while the national standards are improving due to the fact that they're funded by a business. The 5 countries market, however, is better than the market of one country only. Sorry, some strange sounds are coming. Can we continue, dear colleagues? Yes, thank you very much. I see my presentation. Hopefully you can see it as well. Have a look. These are the documents which are now the basis for EEU standardization. That's our agreement and the Interstate Council. Documents about the technical regulations and the work on standardization that supports these regulations. Another example is the long-term cooperation of the national institution that Kazins, Belgis, and Standard Form from Kazakhstan, Belarus, and Russia. Yet in the year 12, they've signed an agreement on cooperation in the field of information. Nowadays, reality is different. So there are no challenges. There are new needs and new challenges, and I hope it shall be upgraded. It's necessary. It's an open agreement. Others are welcome to join it. And nowadays, Armenia is considering joining it. Also, last year, it was joined by the Uzbekistan Standards Institute, and I've already mentioned you about this decision. That's the ISC, our 5 countries. That's related to the structural functional modifications that happened in our countries since the year 92. Some have the one-body presentation regained. In some countries, things were restructured In some countries, 3 bodies represent the country's institutes in the International Standards Council, or ISC. That's the ISO data, national bodies. As you see, the situation is not uniform as well. Well, summarizing, let me tell you that at present we don't have uniform regulations of standardization in EEU. Besides the technical regulation issues, we lack coordination of stakeholders' activities in the countries, and business community is not interested to employ this site. I guess that colleagues from other ISC countries have or encounter same challenges. The ISC development strategy adopted in the end of July of this year provides that interstate committees exist for the development of the technical standards. I believe that's a good a tool to involve business into the interstate standardization. It seems to work. Yeah, it's necessary in EU, and it's necessary and may be viable. I believe if colleagues from 5 countries cooperate actively, we'll have coordinated policy in the information support of standardization in EEU. We can do a lot for digitalization of processes and services of quality infrastructure of EEU. Today there'll be a presentation on the topic, so I won't be too wordy. Let me underline one more time that an important task is to improve the activity of the interstate technical committees. They should get more active. Then the initiative shall shift from the authorities to the business community. Standards should be updated on time, and we should minimize the necessary list of documents. Nowadays, there's around 500 documents involved. That's too much, and it causes problems, especially during the interstate exchange. We hope to provide expert support in the field of technical regulation as well. Thanks for the attention. Hope the technical issues are resolved, and we'll be able to hear presentations of the other colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you for this interesting report, Alexander Anatolievich. And we would like to say that this approach, the unified approach to standardization, interinstitutional approach, has been developed long time ago. We have started it long time ago doing this when we interviewed members of national institutes of Belarus and Kazakhstan, and this issue was related to industry, a different level of development, and it does not react in the same way to the issues when they have to the questions when they have to evaluate the possibility to apply these standards. The unified approach and definition of defining the technical level of standardization. That's why we would like to request Mrs. Amikharova to speak. Can you hear us? Yes, I can hear you now. I hope you can hear me as well. Yes, please, we can hear you perfectly well. Thank you. I would like to first of all congratulate everyone on the occasion of International Standards Day. It's a big, important date for us, for everyone, for us, for members of these organizations and for experts, for those who have started work on standards. It's a big anniversary. I would like to congratulate Rosstandart on this 95 years anniversary. It's a huge experience, great experience, and Rosstandart is always eager to share their knowledge, and we always try to adopt the best practices. And I would like to thank for the cooperation within this long period, within all these years, cooperation between our institutions and our Technical Regulation and Metrology Regulation Institute. And I would like to wish you all the success. I would like to wish you to achieve the new goals in this sphere. And talking about the quality infrastructure, today, there were a lot of reports dedicated to this topic, and I hope you can see my presentation. Can you hear me? And can you see the presentation? Yes, we can see your presentation. Please go on. Today, it was mentioned many times, the quality infrastructure and the elements that we know today, technical regulations and standards, accreditation, certification, metrology, state control. These are all the components of quality infrastructure. And I would like to mention that today, in many countries, such as Eurasian Union and Interstate Council for Standardization, in many countries they have their own system and own infrastructure. And today, international principles that became the basis for these systems are quite clear and transparent. And but today we face the new challenges, and we discuss them a lot today. We are talking about the integration processes that are going on, and the task of each country, each company is to work to develop the new markets, and digitalization is one of the main goals today. Within this infrastructure, we standardization specialists, we consider that everything starts with standard, with the norms, which are created for processes and all the procedures. And GOST state standards, regional documents, are the most important for us. These are the documents which were taken as a guideline during Soviet times, and of course it was a correct decision to maintain the status of such documents, which are very important. And today our forum is dedicated to the destiny, we can say, of this document. We are worried a lot about this document, and we all suggest some possible potential improvements of these documents and the ways of implementation of such documents. And talking about regional standards, which are applied in Eurasian Union, if we can compare those to European documents, we will notice that the standards are applied, similar standards are applied in European Union, and they are very similar to our GOST state standards. And of course, we would like to develop the international documents on the basis of GOST documents, and that would become a good basis for us. And of course, there are some topics that are suggested by different countries for international standards. Talking about GOST standards, state standards, as it was mentioned by Andrei Nikolaevich, we have discussed a lot those obstacles, those barriers and problems that we face while developing and introducing GOST standards. we should work with the updated documents, of course, and I will not repeat all the problems which were described by previous speakers, such problems as low involvement level in the development processes, low engagement in the voting procedures, and I fully agree to the suggestion of Andrei Nikolaevich, his idea about some compulsory voting process. And actually we have faced similar problem in Kazakhstan. We have our own procedures for voting, and these procedures are approved by state authorities. And today we introduce the changes into those documents, into those regulations. We give some reporting, we provide some report data, and according to some data, this voting procedure is considered to be a legal process. So we discuss a lot those obstacles which stop us from the development of proper high-quality documents. And there are a lot of such problems, but I still think these are the problems and obstacles of technical character and can be removed by us. It's in our hands. All the rules of Interstate Council for Standardization are aimed to solve these problems, and we have improved a lot of documents to improve the quality of work in the Interstate Council. We try to comply with all those requirements and the standards that were written by us. And of course, we should be active and should adopt the new standards faster. Talking about the status of documents within the Eurasian Union, that's related to the problem of updating the list of documents and standards. Recently, we have performed scientific research works within the Eurasian Union, and these problems are related to updating processes, and quite frequently we face state standards which are not relevant any longer, and there are national standards which should be excluded from the list, which are not actual, which are not relevant any longer. And today I would like to focus on the quality and the content of GOST state standards. The biggest problem today is the age, we can say age of the GOST standards. Most of the standards are too old. They are almost obsolete, and the countries and companies try to avoid using these documents. They try not to apply these documents and use national standards instead, because the process of state standards approval and certification according to the standard is too complicated, and it's really frightening, it's scaring. Sometimes people start using the organizational standards, company standards, but sometimes it becomes the impetus for application of international documents. So in Kazakhstan, we have two ways out of this difficult, tough situation: either using the company standards or if that is a large project related to foreign investments, then of course we use and apply international documents. We have such an opportunity in Kazakhstan. We have such experience already. We have introduced the changes into the legislation of our country to give the possibility to use directly in the international standardization documents. And today we have given such examples because it gives a lot of opportunities to companies. They can work directly to foreign companies, foreign partners, because their procedures comply with international standardization documents. And of course, that's the problem of the documents' quality. Adopting the international standards to our system, to our procedures, terminology, obsolete demands, obsolete requirements and references which are there in the GOST state standards. Why many companies from Kazakhstan cannot work with the GOST using standards, state standards from Soviet Union, because a lot of references there are obsolete and cannot be applied to today's reality. And companies do not want to waste their time. So of course, we have to move on faster, and we need to update these documents as soon as possible and review those documents which do not comply with scientific and technical level of the industry any longer. And as an example, I would like to share some experience. When we started working on this issue last year, we have adopted new standardization law. According to this law, our institute became the national body, national authority for standards approval. And during this presentation, I would like to say that the top line describes the functions that we used to execute before, but we have received few new functions. First, we were defined as a national level institution, and one of the new functions of our institutions is the analysis of standardization. Today we have this authority. We can do this today. So I will describe what we are doing. We generate the plan for standardization today. And the largest step that was made by us, GOST standard rejected from this provision of this service on creation of technical committee. Today, technical committees coordinate the authority in general. This international model that we start using is much more efficient and functional. GOST standard is still approving the standards, but we have received the function of monitoring. Today we are monitoring the process of application of national standards. We check each and every document, and we check the end user of this standard. So according to the new law, we are the methodology and coordination center, which is managing the works on the standardization. The pilot project this year was related to the function of analysis of standard systematization system. And first of all, we were working on the complex of documents, and we were applying the regulatory acts and where they are applied, and we have prepared the proposals on the inclusion of references in the drafts of the law. And according to the new law, technical specifications for state purchases, we should mention the national standards in those specifications. We should describe if the product purchased complies with the standard. This is the analysis that we have performed as well. So in these spheres, in these industries, we have checked the groups of products, and we have monitored all the standards and technical conditions, technical specifications. We have revealed that somewhere there are no standards for sampling, and we have checked the packages of the standards, those standards which do not comply with the technical regulations any longer. For example, some standards were developed long time ago, and the terminology is obsolete, and it cannot be applied anymore. And after this analysis, we have revealed some interstate standards. For example, if you have a look at the construction industry, approximately 80 standards for construction materials have the references for drawings and diagrams that were developed during Soviet times. And companies of Kazakhstan claim that they cannot work in compliance with these documents, that they cannot apply them in their work. Methodology of calculation has changed, and a lot of other issues are not relevant any longer. So there are a lot of such documents in the construction industry. The GOST state standards of 1970s, 80s, they usually do not comply with the demands of the companies. So that's a big issue for us today. There are some situations when the industry representatives consider that these documents are acceptable. For example, furniture production companies, they say that partially these documents can be applied in today's life and today's operations, and machine building industry within the framework of Eurasian Union activities, IC documents. How quickly do we update these documents? They should be constantly changed, and sometimes we are not doing it in due time. Sometimes these procedures are performed too late. That's the question. If we are ready to be fast, to work fast on the updates, and the question is if our companies are ready to work in compliance with new international standards, and if the industry is developed enough to work according to these new standards. And we are talking about regional documents, GOST standards. We have to think thoroughly on all these issues. There should not be such situation when companies try to avoid GOST standards. When we are talking about expert cooperation and mutual supplies, of course, we work using different national documents, and these kind of obstacles related to processes related to
our backlogging. Nowadays, it's an obstacle for the producers. So we do discuss these issues for quite a while at the meetings of the Scientific and Technical Committee on Standardization and at the ISC meetings at the Standardization Council at EEU Economic Council. Now, regarding the updating of the state standards or GOSTs, we should determine the scientific and technical level of the existing standards. In GOST 1.2, it says that there's quite a part dedicated to the updating of standards, but then the level of existing standards has to be assessed, and it may be done by the committee, or any person can submit a request to this technical committee. It's seldom that the committee does this work on own initiative, and there's no uniform understanding about the scientific and technical level of the standard, how to assess it. We did a review, an old document dated 1984. Well, it at least had a determination of the scientific and technical level of the standard, and it included the method of assessment of such analysis. At present, there exists the procedure of polling. Every 5 years, they do the polling and the systemic review of whether the standards are still actual. We're all getting the systemic review. It's done by the Central Secretariat of ISO. First, the technical department does it, then they do the country review and polling. When discussing these issues at the Council on Standardization, we plan the activities on improvement of activities in the field of standardization, and we question this activity, this kind of work. We believe a uniform approach is necessary to do it correctly. And for that, we need a certain procedure. We believe we need a document on methodology that would describe the scientific and technical level, the forms and methods, the frequency of doing this analysis, and there should be the certain criteria for assessment of scientific and technical level. What are the criteria for judgment? The parameters, the readiness to introduce these documents, etc. Who will do that? We believe it should be done by the national bodies on standardization and by the interstate technical committees. And it should be done on the sides of ISC. That's it. Let me congratulate you one more time. These issues were discussed many times. Now it's included in the plan of activities. Kazakhstan undertook the initiative to develop this kind of a document together with the institutes of the other countries. We hope we'll manage to do it and to present next year, perhaps, the draft of such a document. Thanks a lot for the attention. Thank you very much, Madam Kirjan Magawinovna. Now let me give the floor to Mr. Alexander Skoratov, Director of the Belarus State Institute for Standardization and Certification. Alexander, the floor is yours. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. Let me congratulate everybody on this day of celebration. Let me wish you to stay healthy, in good mood, and have successful work. Let me also congratulate Rosstandart on its anniversary. I'd like to thank Rosstandart and its bodies for a very structural cooperation, for the opportunity to exchange experience and to have good business relations. Also, I'd like to thank the organizers for giving me the floor. In my presentation, I'll provide some info about the planned development of quality infrastructure in Belarus Republic. The issue is seriously taken on a very high level in our country, and our institute was ordered to develop a draft quality program for the period of the between the years 21 and 25, so that to support the quality of products and services. That's one of our main tasks in the next 5 years. That quality program is considered to be a multi-step project. It will consist of the top-level quality in general. Then there are the programs of the leading branches of Belarus industry. And on the level of companies, they'll develop quality programs or the relevant parts of their business plans. Now, regarding the goal of the program, that's to create conditions to make products competitive with a good price-quality ratio. We are the program developers, and We believe that quality infrastructure is an interdepartmental issue. It requires cooperation between different bodies for setting of the requirements and for controlling of the product's quality. And for that, we need to use modern technologies and methodology. The main goals are as follows. We need to have the relevant legal regulations. We should set the modern technical requirements due to the restructuring of, considering the restructuring of the global economy. The knowledge management should be organized. We should improve the refresher courses infrastructure in the field. We should develop the methodology infrastructure at the enterprises, and we should improve the efficacy of accreditation system. We've decided on a number of key parameters. That's in the field of standardization, metrology, accreditation, testing, digitalization, technical regulation in general, and standardization in particular. Now, the key element of the quality program, which is designed at present, is the activities plan. Activities for the carrying out of the goals mentioned in the program. Now let me tell you about the activities planned for standardization. Belarus has open economy. We have a multi-branch economy. Hence, standardization is a very serious issue, and it impacts the competitiveness of the products and the ability to export them. Well, we're planning that the industries shall participate in standards development more actively, and will have the branch standardization programs in the future. Digital transformation should be involved as well. One of the priorities is nuclear energy, development of electric transport, environment protection, and energy efficient construction. Let me tell you a bit about the technical specifications. Among the post-Soviet countries, our technical specifications have most stringent regulations. We believe that high-quality products cannot be produced with weak or formal documents with requirements to the quality of these products and their quality control. In the Soviet Union, the technical specifications were a document with requirements to not only standard but innovative products as well. It was quite a set of documents. However, we insist that the technical specifications are a document that shouldn't confuse the consumers. It may be bad for business relations, and the Institute for Checkup of Technical Specifications should be revived and get a development. A bit more about standardization. The branch programs were already mentioned, and we develop quite a number of standards. For example, at present, In Belarus, since the beginning of the year, there were introduced about 500 government standards. And here comes a question on whether the standards are used efficiently enough. So we develop the tools in that field as well. It's one of our priorities. Branch standardization is being developed actively, and we want to involve the real economy, business units, and different standardization units. We want to participate in branch standardization and in most narrow fields of certain branches of industry. I really wanted to mention a lot about it. Today, average age longevity of standards was used and the organization of its adoption. Standards should be topical, well harmonized, but that is different in different industries. Of course, the standards adopted yet before the year 92 do spoil the general statistics a bit. So when we assess the scientific and technical level of the standards, those obsolete standards do impact the general result. Hence, we offered the following initiative. We believe that standards that haven't been modified for 2 years, for example, should be cancelled. That will incentivize the introduction of international European standards via implementation of their requirements into the company's technical specifications. Well, these things should be updated, and the new technical specifications shouldn't be based on the old requirements. We want to incentivize the development in this field on the level of branches of industry. However, we shouldn't just blindly copy standards, and there should be no gaps or loops in technical legislation. Yeah, things should be improved, and in some cases, hastily. Well, last year, we had a suggestion of a serious innovation. The National Standardization Institute of Russia suggested to modify the topics regarding the standardization, digitalization. Some basic standards of Russia were a model, very beautiful, very efficient model, and we considered it now when we are digitalizing. We regard the standards as the software code, and we check whether it's applicable and if it may be used at the industrial enterprises. We're looking for compatible formats, the ones compatible with the ones used by ISO. And we're looking for digital applications that would add up to the standards. That's our plans for the future. And then the standards shall be used directly. Well, we believe standards should be machine readable and thus create conditions for introduction of CALS technologies and virtual beacons. So machine-readable standards shall be integrated in the processes of industrial automation. Now let me tell you a bit about the development of standards in the field of system management. The government set a task to evenly develop different regions of Belarus. For that, we'll need the well-checked international practices like the ISO 37100. We pay a lot of attention to the human resources development and introduction of the methods of statistics. That's about the system management. Now let me tell you a bit about the results we expect. Of course, we envisage two key directions of improving the competitiveness of products and services. That's improving the quality of the above-mentioned services and products while keeping their price competitive enough. How can we do that? We are improving the efficacy of management systems. That means better forecasting, quality infrastructure development, improvement of the operation and management systems efficacy, and good investment development. Let me tell you something else. Well, we mainly hope for the following: that the relevant branch quality programs shall be developed, and they'll provide the quality infrastructure development directly in the industry branches, and they will impact the relevant enterprises. In Belarus, the government or state-owned enterprises are quite multiple. Hence, I believe we'll cope with the task, and we shall introduce the systemic management practically everywhere. Thus, we'll achieve the results we are looking for. Thanks a lot, Alexander Gennadievich. May I provide a comment, please, to Alexander's presentation? A couple of words. I really liked the presentations of the colleagues, and I had an idea. Somebody said that one should update the standards once a year, some say every 5 years. But I believe the updating of standards and of lists, if it's done that frequently, every year, I don't know whether Nikolai will support me or not, but I believe it shouldn't be done that quickly. You won't cope with such a scope of work. Well, you know, it's for the second year that we are looking for the normative documents to be cancelled. And somebody suggested, let's cancel all the standards created before the year 92. So we've polled our committee, some 3,000 addresses.
And we have asked the users, shall we cancel the standards that were issued before 1992? Out of 10,000 standards, we could have canceled only 790 documents without any consequences. And 5,000 documents should not be reviewed at all, because the standard for metrical thread, it was valid in 1937 and it's still applicable. So there are a lot of standards which do not require a revision every 5 years. That's why here I would like to suggest to unify the efforts of standardization bodies, managers, heads, to unite the efforts with the industrial representatives, with the producers. You should work together. The industry should tell us which standards shall be cancelled, which standards shall be reviewed, and which standards shall remain. We should remember that industry, that production plants work according to these standards, in compliance with these standards, and they are the users of these documents. So we have to jointly generate useful solutions. Let's establish this dialogue in the Eurasian Union. In the past, we used to have this dialogue in the Interstate Council for Standardization, and we have exchanged we have shared the experiences and had some discussions there. I was talking about a slightly different thing. Yes, probably we should raise this idea. We should discuss this idea in Eurasian Union. We have a multi-step threshold to adopt this standard. For example, now we have fixed that we have a particular level of standards, and we, starting from particular date, clear date, which is written in the documents, we should switch over to the standard of a higher level. I was thinking of introducing this practice. We have seen the presentation with steps today. Actually, that was the idea. For example, we introduce whatever is described in the standard number 18. Step by step, stage-wise, we should introduce this system and distribute it for our technical regulations, standards and requirements that are clear, that have clear dates for introduction. It will give us a chance to develop and apply good, efficient standards, but on the other hand, it will give the manufacturers an understanding when they should switch over to the new level. That was the first thing, and I suggest to also unite these terms, innovative shock and guillotine. We should unite these definitions and cut off all the requirements which are not required any longer and which cannot be obtained from the point of view of conformity assessment, from the point of view of procedures. And this innovative shock must be applied to those products which are critical. Thank you. Dear colleagues, one remark. Thank you very much for paying attention to our innovation. Of course, we could not escape this process, and we gave this bright name to the process. But actually, the process of updating the standards is quite a serious process. Last year, we have evaluated scientific technical level together with the industry representatives, and we have analyzed a lot of standards, and we have cancelled only about 50 standards which were not changed within many years at all. Or these were the standards which were already replaced by other standards. But the problem is about 28% of the standards comply to scientific technical level from the point of view of terminology, references, etc. And the largest problem is to update these documents, to introduce the changes in these standards. I can argue yes, the companies, they use these standards, they apply these documents, but if the new requirements, updated standards are not generated, for example, in Belarus Republic, if the regulatory authority will not support the development of the industry, then the production sphere will remain very conservative, and it will retain the development of the industrial companies. So actually, yes, that was a very interesting remark. In all our speeches, we have mentioned the digitalization issue, and today we would like to give the floor to the speaker, Solomatov Vladimir Yurievich, the Director General of Research Center International Trade and Integration, Chairman of the Committee Business Council Eurasian Union on the cooperation with China. And Vladimir Yurievich, we request you to please stick to the timeline. Please, we are almost out of time. Please, if possible, briefly describe the digital initiatives for Eurasian Union. Dear colleagues, I'm going to use these 10 minutes to present my speech. But if I will speak within 10 minutes, then nobody else will be able to speak before 5 p.m., so after 5 p.m. So as far as I understand, when we talk about quality, first of all, we mean the accessibility, availability of the standards, those standards which have compulsory requirement from the list 1.2. But we also talk about those standards which have higher demands related to advanced technical solutions. And on the basis of this, we should understand that industry is not that much interested in the development of the standards. For example, pipe manufacturers, they have faced this tough situation when they had to choose between German pipelines and Russian-made pipelines. So they had to address this question. But actually, this is a seldom example. Not all the industries are ready to address this topic. So we have to try to support this interstate council institution, because it's the common technological platform that allows to develop some common solutions. And even for the sake of the future generations, we have to maintain this platform. Now coming to digitalization to the full extent. Suppose I want to buy any product, and I want to go through the conformity assessment. If I do not have any experience, I will face a lot of difficulties. How to find the product, how to define the technical regulations that have the requirements to this product, which standards I should apply, or which conformity assessment is to be chosen, and which laboratory must perform the trials, and how to choose the laboratory, because they should know for sure which tests should be conducted. Because we quite frequently face the situation when, for example, some clothes for children is to be tested, and they test it, and afterwards we face the situation that the test was not performed properly. Not all the trials, not all the testing procedures were performed. So quite frequently, not all the technical regulations are observed. So what is the way out? What is the solution here? To my mind, in this age of the digitalization, we need to execute digital transformation. We know that today, in different countries, quite an active work is performed. Bill Gates, for example, described these standards. Our colleagues from Kazakhstan, they have performed huge work on transformation to the digital standards. Of course, we can use the libraries and databases to get more information, but we need to get the access to the entire system of technical standards. We need to get all the data, all the technical data related to these standards and technical requirements to the quality. For this purpose, we need to go through a very long and complicated way. there is still a lot of work to be done. When we raised this initiative for technical regulation, we were supported by all the standardization institutions of our countries. And we were supported by the certification authorities, accreditation authorities. We have seen that industrial governmental systems, they support us, and we have seen we have revealed all these achievements, but in the same time, we understood that it's really hard to unite all these spheres because the standards still have differences in different countries. But at the same time, we realized that we need to have a unified digital system. And within this initiative, we suggested to create a multinational platform that, through the interface available to all the users, would provide the services, and Eurasian Union would be responsible for these services. These services include collection and provision of the compulsory requirements. Second, it would include, it would provide generation of technical regulations. And third, it would stipulate clear requirements to the products, and it would describe a clear assessment procedure for all the products. If we will manage to create such components, then we'll get an opportunity to connect all the national services to such international platform. And the idea is, if I address the unified system of Eurasian Union, I should have a chance to get the access to all the national services connected to this multinational platform. So there should not be any technical barriers. And at the same time, if I go to Standard Inform, the portal, requesting for the data, I should get a chance from this platform to get the data from other national platforms where the standards are already available. So we should use the unified standard system. Of course, here we face the challenge of making the standards free, providing the standards free of charge, or should they be paid for. But in the same time, those services which are developed in different countries, they can be provided on the paid basis as well. And the systems provided to all sides gives this opportunity today. So coming back to the beginning of my speech, I see that this system can operate as follows. I start using this interface, and for example, I want to produce porcelain cups. I dial this product, and then digital services give me clear code, technical regulations to this product, describe what are the requirements of the standards from first, second list, and it also gives me the information, it gives the references where can I, where are such products produced, and which European standards are applied to this kind of products. So this kind of international platform is the goal. It would allow to speed up the process of standardization. It would allow us to find quickly the product in the market, find the product that doesn't have a certificate or has a fake certificate. So all this is achievable, and I would like to repeat once again that working on this initiative, I had to face the work with different countries, and I witnessed the work of many people who are highly professional, specialists, and I think within next few years we'll be able to create this system. We'll be able to unite our resources to achieve a high quality system that would allow us to be very competitive, not only within the Eurasian Union, but all over the world. And I would like to congratulate you on this Standardization Day once again. There is a question. Thank you very much. Vladimir Yurievich, I'm being a bit skeptical about this. Not all the processes within Eurasian Union are working properly, and how does the committee plan to work with these aspects? I'm being a bit skeptical about realization and functioning of these processes. In 2008, when we started building the technical regulation system for customs union, we had a lot of tough discussions, and we were arguing whether we need to create this technical regulatory database. And we had we were arguing for quite a long time. But then we've come up with consolidated solution, and we have managed to find a compromise. So if this is a reasonable initiative, and I'm quite confident that it's reasonable, if we are planning to work together to achieve this, it's not going to be a very complicated process for us to build up this system. I'm absolutely confident, and I clearly see that it's necessary to perform the digital transformation, and I see other colleagues also support this approach. So we have to insist on this development because this kind of initiative has been started already, and it has been reviewed twice on the level of Technical Regulation Committee, and the opinion of the community was taken into consideration. We need to go through interstate approval, and then we need to go through the Prime Minister's Council and to get the approval. If we'll manage to do that, all our ideas will get it. We will have a chance to introduce them, to implement them in the real life. Thank you. Dear colleagues, unfortunately, our time is over. We still have very interesting reports. I apologize in front of those speakers for not giving them a time to present these speeches, and I thank the experts of Kazakhstan, Belarus, Russian Federation, and I would like to thank business community for expressing their opinions regarding the role of national and international institutions in this aspect.
And in the end of the session, I'd like to express with satisfaction that we reviewed both cooperation in EEU. We've discussed the common work, and I suggest to continue cooperation in this world. Now let me give the floor to Rosstandart, the head of Rosstandart, Mr. Alexey Abramov. He will finalize this session. I'll use the mic of Andrei. He must have left for an important reason. It's difficult to speak after Vladimir Yurievich, since he mentioned a lot. He said we have a lot to do, a lot was done, and if we fail to do something, that's not a tragedy yet. What can I tell you about my vision of EEU future? Of course, we are aimed at improvement of our integration. We need good connections between our economic operators, regulators, and the ones responsible for quality infrastructure. The thing is not only about the standards. The very name of the session included both the answer and the question. We need regional quality infrastructure. it will not pop up on its own. For that, we need a customer and a consensus in our countries. Otherwise, we'll struggle with non-harmonized standards, different legislation in metrology, and other issues for quite a long period of time. We have different principles of surveillance, different systems of market surveillance in our countries, to say nothing about the sanctions, the measure of responsibility, etc. I believe there's a lot of issues to resolve in EEU, and we have enough people with relevant competences to resolve all these issues. I'm very happy about the work conducted by my old friend and partner, Mr. Nazarenko. He's the minister and he's responsible for technical regulations. One of our colleagues, Mr. Shakaliev, we expect him to take the new position. And there are ministers delegated from the Russian Federation. They understand very well what's the quality infrastructure and technical regulations. I mean Mr. Andrei Slepnyov and Sergei Glaziev. I believe that if in EEU Commission a site is formed for the discussion of the issues raised by the country, the relevant decisions shall be made and solutions shall be made. That's my opinion. It may be disputable, but I believe we need uniform or at least harmonized standards. We've discussed it at the Public Council in detail. Shall they be interstate? Yes. Should metrology get closer in systems of metrology in our countries? Yes, of course. But for that, we need coordination. I'm positive about the future, and I believe we are able to form such an infrastructure. And that will be for the benefit of our countries, I'm sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's it. Thank you, dear colleagues, for participation. This session is announced closed.